From choosing to suddenly don some rather bizarre get-ups and cackle your way into the hearts of millions, to shaving your face and becoming a twin. These are those particularly odd times WWE stars tried something new. I'm Gareth here from What Culture Wrestling, and here are 10 bizarre times WWE stars experimented with their gimmick. Number 10. Dolph Ziggler stopped showing off. Nothing was that great in 2011, and do not let yourself think otherwise. CM Punk's pipe bomb to Money in the Bank run was mind-blowing, but the show didn't draw a record-setting buy rate off the back of it or anything, and the entire story was as good as goosed 8 days later, never to return, and really dampened enthusiasm for the product. And you can't say dampened enthusiasm without thinking of this image of Dolph Ziggler. The show-off wrestled in the wrong era to be the level of megastar he probably deserved, but the bad advice he took / instincts he followed in clipping the long blonde hair was the last thing his undulating fortunes needed. He was copying the homework of plenty that came before him in a drab era for the organization, but Ziggler got over in the first place because he was one of the few not to look and work like the blandest create-a wrestler this side of the Fight Forever suite. Number 9. Seth Rollins, the Visionary. Whatever on earth the gimmick is at this point really started to take shape during his WrestleMania feud with Cesaro in 2021. He developed a god complex in 2019, but couldn't really take on an audience of followers for the fat end of a year thanks to the pandemic. This, if we're trying to tether all of this together in a way WWE never did, probably drove him insane enough to want to take Rey Mysterio's eye on, and having wreaked havoc on a family and been one of the few not to lose to the tribal chief in his original rise, sent him mad enough to do the whole psycho preacher bit without requiring a congregation. Enter the sermon's increasingly wackier suits / gear, and an even more deranged heel gimmick that ultimately got 2 over to stay on the dark side. Rollins has always been Mr. Reliable out there, but the last year's been the first since his epic 2015 where he's actually belonged at the top of the card too. Number 8. Ultimate Warrior, mid-1990s wrestler. The Ultimate Warrior's 1996 return was never gonna work, but nor would a 1998 return, and Vince McMahon was trying to snap him up just weeks after the Montreal screwjob. It goes underreported that McMahon was constantly trying to lure his former 1980s class back throughout the 1990s, despite the entire new generation philosophy being based on them all being ancient fossils. But not Warrior after his WrestleMania return in 1996. He might have said he was gonna kick your ass before Stone Cold Steve Austin that year, but that was the problem. He did it dressed in the trappings of a role the company had actively phased down and out years prior. Neither performer nor promoter could have their cake and eat it too, and a fraught professional relationship hit the skids by the summer. Number 7. Elias, Ezekiel. Elias generated a not insignificant amount of heat for his drifter guitar shtick, and it did not matter a jot that his matches weren't really that good, which really is something considering that several of his promos approached that grade. Ezekiel was a dumb bit when the clean-shaven cut-body twin brother debuted on the post-WrestleMania 38 edition of Raw, but it was a new one. And it turned out that he had more babyface fire than slow it down heat in his toolbox all along. Ezekiel was the origin story for Kevin Owens' impotent rage, and though Triple H sent the gimmick packing to the hospital forever, the photoshopped image of the family with slightly different Elias faces was a last reminder that this company is the one place where something so fundamentally stupid can actually function. Number 6. Kevin Owens, Face of America. Beyond knowing that somebody that looked a bit like Chris Moyles and or James Corden would definitely generate boos, the reason for Kevin Owens going all in on his suited and booted United States Championship run was made apparent on his devastating 365 network special. Vince McMahon was a piece of garbage to him after a WrestleMania 33 match with Chris Jericho that had only died on the night because one of the year's top angles was relegated to second on the card for a secondary title after the chairman himself went with Bill Goldberg and Brock Lesnar as the Universal Championship story instead. That kind of negging needs to die with the rancid old crank himself. But new United States champion Owens was obviously willing to do anything to rebuild the fractured relationship and yet again elevate bad material. He failed on this occasion. A series with AJ Styles felt like it was always saving the good match for a finale that never arrived. But he hopefully got a modicum of catharsis nutting the nose off McMahon during another strange left turn later that summer. Number 5. Emelina. AEW should not exist. There's hundreds of examples a wrestling fan can point to from WWE's output as a cover image for a hypothesis entitled How WWE Blew Their Monopoly. Things that once would have been laughed out of creative meetings for tearing at narrative fabric or abusing the loose rules of the universe that mattered just as much as any other show. And Emelina's one of those things. WWE had botched yet another beloved NXT favorite in Emma during a 2014-2015 stint on the main roster, and hadn't done much better with a repackaged heel that returned. No matter, because on October 3rd, 2016, vignettes ran for a relaunch as Emelina, but the vignettes just kept airing with no end in sight. 133 days later, in February 2017, she finally arrived, and immediately killed the character to relaunch herself as Emma, and she was released that same year. Number 4, Damien Sandow, Damien Mizanins. What an inspired bit of business this was. Thanks to a few good but not great runs in WWE, large swathes of the fan base seemed to think Damien Sandow was set to dominate the wrestling world when he was released in 2016. While that never really materialized, this run in particular highlighted that there are innumerable ways to skin the proverbial cat in pro wrestling, and Sandow probably should have been given one of them. As film star Miz's stunt double, Mizanins copied everything his new boss did, until the gag became so over that the pair of them were undeniable. A tag team championship was gloriously received, and as the relationship predictably crumbled, Sandow finally snapping on his smug oppressor became one of the company's hottest impending tap-ins. Then they blasted it miles wide. The split got the biggest possible stage in theory, but a WrestleMania pre-show battle royale relegated its importance by default, not least when Mizanins' turn didn't even get him a win. Number 3, Diamond Dallas Page, The Undertaker makes him famous. For years, either side of Scott Hall and Kevin Nash forming the New World Order alongside Hulk Hogan, WWE flatly refused to accept that WCW could make stars. This was demonstrably not the case, with Diamond Dallas Page perhaps being the most obvious example. A people's champion before The Rock made it a catchphrase, Page was a made man from pro wrestling during its hottest period, and still believed he had enough to offer when he elected to sacrifice his fat AOL/Time Warner deal for a crack at life as a WWE superstar. The Undertaker's wife Sarah had a stalker at the time, and it was DDP. The motivation? Getting the dead man's attention so that he'd be made famous by working with him. Undertaker battered him for months. Sarah beat him in her one and only match, and he was using his loss to drive a doomed motivational speaker gimmick before the end of the year. Rough with the smooth is one thing, but WWE's barbs severed the arteries of his run on the night he debuted. Number 2, Cody Rhodes, Stardust tries to kill the Attitude Era. After a surprise hit of a tag run alongside brother Dustin in 2013, WWE refused to give the pair their big WrestleMania match, and instead turned Cody into a sham Goldust, with little other than a losing streak to justify the madness. Cody being Cody tried and tried and tried to find salad amongst the sludge, but it was an all-timer dud given to a guy running out of tolerance for the process. This was best displayed during a now prescient backstage promo with backstage interviewer Eden Styles, in which he correctly places blame for his terrible turn of fortune on the broken system he's trapped in and the ancient wrestlers it valued. Styles, his real-life wife Brandy, is living every damn word with him. Number 1, Hulk Hogan, Mr. America. Vince McMahon and Hulk Hogan probably blamed Brock Lesnar and Kurt Angle for WrestleMania 19 bombing at the box office, but as well as WWE blatantly becoming an uncool brand 2 years on from WrestleMania X7, the McMahon-Hogan heavy build simply didn't connect. Regardless, the daft old weirdos realized that a straight-up rematch wasn't the answer for the post-Mania run, and went all rewrite no holds barred in a weekend, and put Hogan in a mask to do Simpsons comedy, and kill Sean O'Haire and Zach Gowen's momentum. Hogan was then gone before they could even pay it all off properly, but who's to say that would have yielded anything more than the original anyway? What a strange old time, eh? And that's our list of any other bizarre times WWE stars experimented with their gimmick. Well, let us know all about them in the comment section right down below, and don't forget to like, share, and click on that subscribe button while you're down there. Also, if you like this sort of stuff, then please head on over to whatculture.com and find some more fantastic articles just like the one this video you're watching right now is based on. I've been Gareth from What Culture Wrestling. Cheers for watching this video today, and hopefully we'll see you soon. Bye bye!